Nathan Emerson is a housing commentator and CEO of Property Mart, because Angela Rayner, who hasn't been seen much lately, by the way, every time I see Keir Starmer, he seems to be in the company of Rachel Reeves. Angela Rayner says that new homes need not be beautiful. Labour apparently dropping a planning requirement amid a reset to fire up various sluggish development rates. Well, very good morning to you, Nathan. I'm not sure I would describe an awful lot of housing in this country as beautiful anyway. I didn't realise it was an actual instruction, is it?
It is more desirable for town planners to integrate a more diverse mix of accommodation into any new home scheme. But I think the main thing we've got to look at is we've got various types of build over the years, the 30s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, all very recognisable. And we look back in history and we pick faults with mass build very often. And this is something which I think future generations will live by what we build. I don't think there's any argument we need to build houses. The important thing is what we build and where we build it.
Yeah, I think where we build it in some ways is more important than what, really, isn't it?
It probably is a key part, and I think for me this is an opportunity Labour could have had to take some real leadership over what is a national problem. They recognise that, but probably I think for me it would have been something which would have involved other parties and a longer period of time. We're in danger of looking like a knee-jerk reaction, just release lots of land and build on it, if we're not careful about how we plan this.
Yeah. What did you make of Rachel Reeves' statement yesterday that she wanted to get rid of or release, if you like, sell off various government buildings, various sort of empty buildings, many of which would be kind of, I suppose, owned by councils, would be owned by departments of state because they haven't really got anybody working in them anymore. Is that much of a move? I mean, is that going to make any difference to housing?
Proportionally not a great difference, but I think what that's showing is there is a change in how the workforce is being utilised at the moment. There are a lot of vacant buildings. I wouldn't say so much government buildings, but you've also got a lot of private sector buildings which are empty at the moment, a lot of commercial buildings where we've got shops with potential accommodation above. And actually, if it starts for us to actually regenerate properties in and around our town centres and the suburbs to more useful accommodation, then I think that would be certainly making better use of existing buildings.
Yes. I mean, I think a lot of people would say if you've got an empty office building in the middle of London, by all means turn it into, you know, flats. But who would then buy those flats and who would then occupy them? Because part of the problem in this country, particularly in London anyway, and in other cities, is investors buy the flats and nobody ever lives in them.
This is a major problem, and I think, you know, we have a lot of external money from abroad, and the UK is a safe environment to own property, and it does attract people with money. But we do find in other areas of the country, Devon and Cornwall, for example, in the Lake District, where they do put restrictions on for local people within certain parameters of affordability. And I think that wouldn't be out of the way to consider that, especially if we've got already owned buildings. We could think about the demographic of people that we need in them, certainly within our major cities, in order to service the population that do live there and support the emergency services and local retail.
But that's the problem, isn't it? Because if you've got what you might regard as a reasonably good located building in the centre of town, and you could convert it into reasonably expensive flats, I mean, are you really going to, realistically, you're going to sell them to anybody but overseas investors?
And I think that's a strike difference between privately owned buildings and government buildings. I think that will be interesting to see how they handle and they deal with this. We know, obviously, they're pumping a lot more money into the NHS and rewarding doctors, so affordability for them probably isn't going to be so much of a problem, but it's more about the low to medium level workers that need access to these facilities and sites in order to serve the public, really.
Yeah, interesting times. Well, we'll see. Nathan, thanks very much indeed, housing commentator and CEO of Property Mart.